Yeah, hello slimy fertilers, and back once again to do another kind of gameplay video stroke review type thing. This time around I'm going really old school and I am doing a game from 1984 on the ZX Spectrum computer from Sinclair. The Sinclair ZX Spectrum was the follow-up to the Sinclair ZX81. It featured colour graphics and it was hoped by Sir Clive Sinclair, or just Clive Sinclair as he was at the time before he got his knighthood. The computer would see use in the home for personal computing things and for business. To this end, a few business-related programs such as spreadsheets, word processors, etc. were released. But unfortunately, the Spectrum wasn't really picked up by businesses due to its kind of limited hardware. For example, there wasn't really a proper printer for it, and in the end the Spectrum became more famous simply because of its games.
Games. Everywhere I go, games. This is what my lifetime of achievement has been reduced to. Clive Sinclair, the man who brought you Jet Set fucking Willy.
Indeed, but the Spectrum was a very cheap home computer, so it basically fulfilled the wants and needs of parents who were buying computers for their children, who didn't just want them sitting around playing games on game consoles. At least with an actual computer they could learn to program in BASIC and do various other things like homework and stuff like that. And the affordability of games on cassette was a lot cheaper than your average cartridge-based game, which would cost about 10 times the same amount. And if you were naughty, you could just get copied software and games from other people just by copying the tape. But yes, Jet Set Willy was one of the most popular games that was released on the ZX Spectrum. Spent several months at #1 in the Spectrum games charts, and it was actually the sequel to Manic Miner, a game released the previous year, 1983, featured the same character and basically had him doing the same thing. The storyline behind it is that Miner Willy made an absolute fortune in Manic Miner and used the money from that to buy a large mansion. And in that mansion he had a party, and when he came round the next morning after the party, the house was in a complete mess. And he had to go around and tidy things up because if he didn't, his housekeeper wouldn't allow him to go to bed. The object of the game is just to go around the house, collect items, and once you've collected all the items, the housekeeper will move out the way and allow you to go and finally get in bed. The house itself is populated by strange creatures, and it's according to the fluff in the storyline, Willy bought the house from someone, some sort of scientist or mad professor or something like that, who'd been conducting various experiments on the property, which ended up with strange creatures and bizarre alternate dimensions in rooms. So so speaking of Jet Set Willy, let's go and have a look at the actual gameplay. Okay, so when you load the game, this is your start screen. Basically the game title and that lovely music, along with the epileptic seizure inducing flashing title. It's not flashing fast enough to give most people a seizure though. But yeah, I'm emulating this game in Spectrum Plus 2 mode, which is basically a Spectrum 128K produced by Amstrad with a attached tape deck. Basically something. This program is actually cracked. I have two versions of this game. I have this cracked version, and I also have a direct straight copy of one of the original tapes. The reason why I'm not using the original tape version is because the original tape version has an early form of copy protection on it, requiring a code sheet. I do have a copy of the code sheet, but it kind of breaks up the gameplay, me having to type the code in. But I just want to show you the game, not the copy protection. The copy protection is quite simple to to understand and get through. But it was an early form of it, and if you lost the code sheet, then you're a bit buggered because the code it requested would change every time you tried. But yeah, so we're looking. This is the kind of first two rooms of the game. There are actually 83 objects to collect over the course of the game, and as you can see, there is Willy, there, the little white guy in the top hat. Has to move through each room of the house to find objects. Now, as you can see there, that was a dick move on behalf of the programmers, because as soon as I entered this room, I was killed by one of the enemies that's there, the moving things. That's actually the same sprite that's used for the housekeeper. I haven't gone into the bedroom, so can't show you that. But this one here, the nightmare room, Willy changes into a flying pig and gets attacked by multicoloured versions of his housekeeper and giant foot. And as you can see there, there's a flashing object over in the corner. Now, this is the thing. I haven't really played Jet Set Willy all that much. It's a simple platformer. Your controls are simply move left, move right, and jump. But the getting your jumps right is part of the game race. So this is a platform game, but unlike your kind of modern platform games where you're encouraged to try and go fast and everything like that. This particular game and similar games of its time are more based on having patience and getting your timing spot on, which I keep attempting to do here. And this is the thing as well, one of the quotes there, I mean, I've died twice in this room now. The first time was because I was killed as soon as I entered due to that yellow thing going up and down, and then I just got killed because the hit detection box is really sensitive. It's like literally the arse end of my flying pig form hangs out, and see, I didn't time a jump right there, so that's why I died. But yeah, the arse end of my pig flies out, and when I'm stood on the platform getting ready to jump past the foot and the red thing, the purple housekeeper touches my arse and it kills me straight away. I gave up on that room. But yeah, as I was saying, it's there are 83 objects to collect in the game, and this is one of the few games on Spectrum that does actually have a completion. Well, I say a few games, there's quite a few on Spectrum that can actually be completed in the modern sense of it, where you go through and get to your final objective and win the game kind of thing, instead of just being your kind of Space Invaders and that just continues on because you're just going for high score. Now, also with regards to Jet Set Willy, the original version of the game, which is I'm playing a copy of here, actually cannot be completed because of various programming errors in the game, which required pokes in order to fix. Now, there are numerous parts of the game that cannot be done without doing these pokes. For example, there is a section called the attic, which I never get to because I think I thought I'd recorded enough footage here and decided to give up. But the attic in particular, I had several problems with it, including it had an object that you couldn't get to because the enemies in that room, basically they'd been badly placed and didn't give you a chance, so one of the pokes removes that enemy. For those who don't know, a poke is basically the modern equivalent would be a kind of cheat code. A cheat allows you to, a cheat that allows you to remove or change certain aspects of the game. As you can see there, I lost my last life and it's now taken me back to the beginning, so there I am, just basically moving around, getting ready to stop recording. I was actually debating whether to do a bit longer on this, but I just wanted to show you the kind of basics. It's the game itself is an extremely simple game, but it's really hard to master. It's one of those games that's really difficult to master because it's all about timing. It's all about getting your timing right and everything like that. And it didn't help with the with the problem of the uncompletable parts of the game. Hence why they reduced. Well, an interesting bit of side note of this is that originally, when people were complaining about entering rooms and getting instantly killed, not being able to reach objects and stuff like that, the software developers basically said that, oh well, it's just because that room's full of poison gas, or oh, you must be doing something wrong. But they were basically forced to admit that there was something up, and the pokes were released and things. Pokes are just basically bits of code that you can type in, and it gives you, it does what it is. So yeah, that was Jet Set Willy. Jet Set Willy was followed by a sequel, Jet Set Willy 2, which itself was developed from a port of the version for another system. I can't remember which. But yeah, it's one of the longest. Well, like I say, it was one of the most popular games for the Spectrum. And even to this day, it's widely emulated, and there's sort of remakes and updates come out on various things. I know that there's been versions like on Xbox and stuff like that. So popular game. It's one of those games. It's an old one. It's really challenging, and simple graphics, because it was 1984, and that was the best that could be produced on a home computer like the Spectrum. Obviously, there were systems out there that could make better graphics and stuff like that, but better graphics doesn't always mean a better game. So anyways, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video.